Sometimes a vet may suggest that a dog goes on a dietary elimination trial as a way of identifying food that might be the cause of symptoms they're experiencing. It sounds straightforward. We've been doing this with Gandalf, so we're going to share how we've been getting on. The dietary elimination trial is a way of figuring out if a specific food may be at the root of certain symptoms that your dog, or person for that matter, is experiencing, usually ones relating to skin or gut health. This was recently recommended for Gandalf, and he's already tried some different options to address his symptoms, such as antibiotics and some medication to help with itching. His symptoms might not immediately suggest a dietary issue because they are across different parts of his body, and his food seems to be suiting him in that his poop is fine and he's happy to eat it. However, we've tried the different options that might be the cause and it's not helped. So we're now on to this elimination trial. For our trial, we're using a specific hypoallergenic food recommended by the vet, which contains hydrolyzed protein, as it's typically protein that causes the problem. We have both the kibble and the wet version, tinned food, to use during the trial. I changed him over straight away without a transition period, and luckily he seems to like both of them. He rapidly clears his bowl at meal times, so he's not been bothered, it seems, by this strange looking white kibble that's replaced his usual food. I have noticed a few problems, however, or issues that I want to share with you. First of all, he seems hungrier on this food. I'm feeding him the same volume of kibble as before, as I think feeling full is important to him. In the past, when I've tried to cut the quantity of food down, I've caught him having less than pleasant snacks in the garden. And a couple of times he's dashed out and stolen food from other dogs' bowls while they're still eating, which he wouldn't normally do. So I think he is a bit peckish with this food. Another thing we've noticed is that his poop is really firm, verging on constipated. He's still eating quite a lot of grass, and we're having almost daily panics over bits of poop dangling from the grass that is not coming out without assistance. So that's not exactly pleasant to deal with, is it, Gandalf? No. He's also realised that he's having tablets. He's on 3 different tablets at the moment each day, and having been giving him tablets for maybe 3 years, without a problem, just tucking the tablets inside some wet food and he eats it straight down. It turns out that this hypoallergenic wet food is not as good at hiding the fact that there's a tablet in there. Unfortunately, he's realised there's something hidden in the nugget of food, and this is a problem as I can't put it in anything different while he's on the diet. So I've had to resort to popping them straight down, which is not the nicest process for either of us. Is it? No. Another thing we're having issues with is enrichment time. This is causing problems because they normally all share the same food when we do enrichment, but I've had to separate Gandalf out. So he will eat his new kibble if I scatter it, but he's not so interested in hunting for it. He's also confined to a smaller space so I can keep him segregated, which means he's finishing very quickly. Instead of just scatter feeding, I'm trying him on licky mats to make it last a bit longer. I had to stop using licky mats previously because when Floppy arrived, it just wasn't safe as he tended to eat the mat rather than what's on it. I've tried Gandalf with the wet tinned food on the mat, but that's a little bit too exciting. You can see here that he's trying to chew the mat rather than just lick it. So now I'm trying soaking some of the kibble and mushing that into the mat instead. He's still a bit enthusiastic, but it's not as bad. So that seems to be the best option for now. Another thing that's tricky is our bedtime treats. I don't think having a piece of kibble instead of a gravy bone is kind of going to work. And in order to create treats, the only thing I've got to use is the wet food and the kibble. As a result, we have been trying to come up with something to do with it to make it more interesting. I've soaked some of the kibble, mashed in the wet food, and then spread it out and cooked it. I've tried some in the microwave and I've tried some in the air fryer. But both methods, I had to turn it over part way through because the bottom was rather soggy, but we got it to an acceptable consistency, and then I cut it up into small pieces. Seems a bit rubbery, and I doubt the process has done the ingredients any favours, but it seems to be going down well, and it serves the intended purpose just for a few pieces every day at bedtime.
It's not for you.
Talking about treats, another thing that's tricky is walk time, because in the past we would have used strips of duck to help him deal with difficult things on walks, but a piece of kibble has never worked, whatever the kibble was. So when he sees something difficult, it is not sufficient to reward him. And that means that I can't use reward-based techniques involving food at the moment, because the only food I can have is not exciting enough. The only way I've come up with to resolve that is to just do our best to avoid the triggers. So we are just walking in places where there's very little chance of seeing another dog, keeping our eyes peeled and our fingers crossed. We are, aren't we? We're crossing them fingers. We are crossing. So as you can see, some of the issues are to do with Gandalf, and some of them are to do with having more than one dog because of issues I have with his particular needs, and also trying to stop him eating their food. We're currently 2 weeks in. We have at least another 6 weeks to go. Watch this space and we'll update you with how we're getting on. Bye for now. What's down there? What's down there, Flopper? Look out for new videos every Monday, and why not subscribe so you don't miss out?